Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us for another staff testimony. I'm Macy, and today joining me is our student pastor, Doug Moore. Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm married to Carrie. We've been married for 11 and a half years. We have 3 boys, ages 10, 6, and 3, and we've been at Emerald Coast Fellowship for 9.5 years. We came on board in January of 2011, and over the past 9 years, we have absolutely fallen in love with this church, and we have fallen in love with Bay County and Panama City, and are excited to be here.
Awesome. So go ahead and tell us what your life was like before Christ.
Well, I grew up in church. My mom was a vacation Bible school director. My dad was a deacon. I don't remember a time when we weren't in church. So I have a very church background. My parents were in church. My grandparents were in church. And I've heard about Jesus and God ever since, I was born. And when I was in second grade, after vacation Bible school, I decided that I needed to be saved. And so my parents set up a appointment with the pastor in his office, and I can vividly remember talking with him and kneeling down on his in his little prayer area that he had set up in his office and praying the sinner's prayer. I can also remember being baptized and being presented to the church, and I had all the head knowledge that I needed for salvation, but I don't really think it made a difference inside my heart. Like, I knew mentally what I was doing, but I didn't fully understand it from a spiritual and heart standpoint. So life went on. I thought I was a Christian, went through middle school, started high school, and during February of my sophomore year in high school, on a youth trip to Ridgecrest Conference Center in North Carolina, during the Friday night session, I came to a realization that I didn't actually know Jesus. I knew a lot about Jesus. I knew a lot about God and the gospel, but I had never specifically come to grips with my sin and asked Jesus to forgive me of that sin. So that night on the playground, well after curfew, I accepted Jesus as my Savior, asked him to forgive me of my sins and to be my Lord and Savior and allow me to walk with him daily for the rest of my life. And that's how I got saved, on a youth retreat.
So after accepting Christ into your life and actually having the heart knowledge and the head knowledge, how did your life change after that?
At first, little by little, I noticed that as I read the Bible more and more, I had a hunger for the Bible for the first time in my life, because for the first time in my life, I was reading it through the eyes of someone who was a Christian. And I saw initially a lot of growth, and then it just kind of slowed a little bit as life went on. High school athletics took over, college athletics took over. But during that time, I saw God grow me. I saw God give me a purpose and a self-confidence that I never had before. And ultimately, he changed the direction of my life again by calling me into full-time church service to be a pastor.
So if you were talking to a non-believer, what would you tell them has been the best thing about having a relationship with God?
Well, obviously, it's having your sin be forgiven and having a relationship with God and knowing that he walks with me now, and because of my surrendering my life to him and asking for forgiveness, I'll be in eternity with him. But there's a second part of it. It comes with the peace and the confidence of knowing Christ daily. And it's not a secret that our middle son has a significant heart defect. It's also not a secret that we don't really allow that to dictate our life. But the reason that we allow that, the reason that doesn't dictate our life is because we know we have this confidence and this peace because of what Christ did for us, that no matter what happens in his life or what happens to the world around us, we have this confidence and this peace that ultimately God is in control. We may never discover his ultimate plan until we're in heaven with him, but knowing that he knows the future and he holds our future in his hands is what gives us, I think, what non-Christians don't have.
Yeah. That is so good. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Stay tuned next week for another staff testimony.
This is my story. What's yours?